I remember when I first started trying to change my life. I was broke, behind on promises, and embarrassed by how I had let time and excuses pile up. And one day I realized I wasn't lacking dreams. I was lacking discipline. So I made a vow to myself, I will not miss a day of reading, not one day. I'll track my expenses every night. I'll set my goals in ink, not pencil. And I will stick to my schedule, not negotiate with it. And let me tell you, my life started to change. Discipline is the bridge between goals and accomplishments. It's the difference between someone who watches opportunities pass by and someone who builds opportunity through daily practice. I started getting better. I became a better speaker, a better thinker, a better investor. Not by one grand leap, but by showing up every single day and doing what needed to be done, especially when I didn't feel like it. Discipline is when you save, even when it would feel better to spend. It's when you invest in learning instead of entertaining yourself to death. It's when you follow through on your word, not because it's convenient, but because it builds your character. And character is the foundation upon which all lasting wealth is built. I remember mentoring a young man who told me, I've got so many ideas, but nothing ever seems to work out. I said, ideas are not your issue. Discipline is. Ideas are potential. Discipline turns potential into profit. I had him track one thing, how often he started something and followed through on it fully. After a few weeks, he came back and said, you're right. I start 10 things and quit 9. No wonder I feel scattered. That's when he began building discipline, small habits, repeated daily, and things began to change. Not overnight, but always. You see, the wealthy aren't necessarily smarter. They're just more consistent. They've trained themselves to do the hard things first. They've made discipline their ally. They track their time like others track television shows. They hold themselves accountable even when no one is watching. Because they know when you live with discipline, you can afford to dream bigger and know you'll reach it. And let me give you this truth. Discipline isn't punishment. It's freedom in disguise. When you master it, you gain power over your day. You stop reacting and start building. You wake up knowing your actions are aligned with your ambitions. And that, my friends, is the foundation of wealth, not just in the bank account, but in your confidence, your reputation, your sense of progress. So if you're serious about wealth, don't just wish, don't just plan, commit, and show up every single day with discipline in your pocket. Because that's the bridge between where you are and the success you say you want. And if you don't cross that bridge, no one can cross it for you. One of the greatest disciplines you'll ever learn, and perhaps the rarest, is the ability to say, not now, not no forever, just not now. The ability to delay gratification, to put off what feels good in the moment so that you can experience something far greater later. I call that emotional maturity. And when it comes to building wealth, there is no trait more valuable. Most people live in the moment and not in the good way. They chase the thrill of the now, the coffee they didn't budget for, the gadget they don't need, the weekend escape they'll pay for all year. The impulse purchase, the indulgence, the shortcut, they trade future freedom for present comfort, and they never understand why they stay stuck. But wealthy people, they understand a different rhythm. They've trained themselves to say no when others say yes. To walk past the temptation, not because they can't afford it, but because they're more committed to their vision than their appetite. Let me tell you a story. When I first got serious about changing my financial life, I made a rule. No major purchases unless they served my growth or contributed to my freedom. And let me tell you, that was not easy. Friends were upgrading their cars, taking fancy vacations, spending on things I used to envy, but I made a different choice. I saved, I studied, I invested, I delayed gratification. And now, years later, I can tell you this, the rewards I enjoy today are not because I was the smartest. They came because I was willing to wait. See, wealth doesn't grow from one big decision. It grows from thousands of small ones. Every time you say not today to what you want now, you're saying yes to something greater down the road. You're giving your money time to compound. You're giving your mind room to mature. You're giving your goals space to breathe. There's a saying I've always believed. If you do what's easy, life will be hard. But if you do what's hard, life will be easy. That's the essence of delayed gratification. The hard thing today makes tomorrow easier. The sacrifice now becomes the celebration later. But don't misunderstand, this isn't about living a life of denial. It's not about punishing yourself. It's about strategy. It's about having the maturity to make decisions based on where you want to go, not just where you are. It's about giving up the illusion of quick pleasure for the security and abundance of long-term fulfillment. I remember mentoring a young entrepreneur who made a windfall early in his business. Instead of reinvesting it, he bought a luxury car, upgraded his apartment, took 3 vacations in 6 months. When the next market shift came, he had no margin, no reserves, no strategy. He had consumed the seed that could have multiplied. That's what a lack of delayed gratification does. It robs your future for the sake of your ego. The wealthy, they understand that not every dollar is meant to be spent. Some dollars are seeds, some are soldiers, some are bricks for the foundation of freedom. They don't waste those dollars on moments of weakness. They put them to work. And it's not just about money. It's about time, energy, and effort too. While others binge entertainment, the wealthy binge education. While others sleep in, the wealthy build in silence. While others escape discomfort, the wealthy embrace the grind because they know that on the other side of sacrifice is abundance. Now you might ask, how do I develop this discipline? It starts with clarity. If you don't know what your future looks like, it's too easy to fall for distractions. But when your goal is clear, the sacrifices make sense. They don't feel like pain. They feel like purpose. So next time you're tempted by something shiny, something impulsive, something that screams, do it now, pause, breathe, ask yourself, is this moving me toward my vision or pulling me from it? That moment, that choice, that's where wealth is won or lost. Because delayed gratification isn't about what you lose. It's about what you gain: freedom, confidence, margin, and wealth that lasts. Discipline isn't saying no to everything. It's saying yes to the right things at the right time. One day I heard a man say, the true test of success isn't what you leave to your children, it's what you leave in them. And I'll never forget that. Because too many people spend their entire lives chasing income, chasing possessions, and calling that wealth. But real wealth, enduring wealth, is the result of discipline that runs deeper than money. It's the philosophies, the principles, the habits you plant that outlast your own time here and shape generations after you. Discipline, then, is not just for today's paycheck. It's not just so you can upgrade your car or take a better vacation. It's the parent of legacy. It's the invisible architect that builds a future you may never fully see, but your children and their children will live in. And let me tell you, nothing multiplies like a good example or corrupts like a poor one. When I was just starting out, I didn't have much, no trust fund, no inheritance, not even a college degree to lean on. But I did have something else. I had hunger. And with that hunger came the realization that if I didn't discipline myself, life would discipline me. So I started small, reading daily, budgeting carefully, keeping promises to myself. And let me tell you, that changed my life. But even more than that, it gave me something to pass on. I remember when I sat down with a young couple who had just had their first child, they were asking me about investment strategies. I said, let's talk about something even more powerful than stocks or real estate. Let's talk about the example you're about to set. Because that child, more than anything you say, is going to watch what you do. They're going to learn how to handle money from your habits. They're going to learn how to approach problems by watching your posture. They're going to absorb your mindset long before they adopt your methods. You can leave them $1 million, but if you don't leave them the discipline to manage it, that million won't last a generation. But if you leave them with principles, the discipline to save, to think long term, to act with integrity, even if you never hand them a fortune, they can build one on their own. The wealthy understand this. They operate on a time horizon that extends beyond their own life. They know they're building more than a lifestyle, they're building a standard. And that standard gets handed down. That's why they build systems. That's why they codify habits. That's why they don't just get rich, they create structure. Because they know that wealth without wisdom becomes a burden. But discipline paired with wealth becomes a gift. I knew a man once who ran a successful business, made millions, but never passed on the principles that made it work. His kids inherited the bank account, but not the backbone. Within a few years, the money was gone and the confusion was enormous. You see, without discipline, even abundance can be dangerous. Now, on the other hand, I've met families where each generation got stronger. Why? Because someone, somewhere in that line decided to break the chain of excuses and build a chain of values. Someone decided to teach their children how to budget, how to delay gratification, how to think with clarity and act with courage. And that discipline passed down became legacy. So ask yourself, what are you building that will outlive you? Are your habits worth inheriting? Because one day someone will follow your example. Someone will model your decisions. Whether it's your children or your community or someone watching from afar, someone will live in the house you're building with your daily disciplines. And here's the beautiful thing. You don't have to be a millionaire today to start building legacy. You just have to be intentional. You just have to show up with consistency. You have to take your decisions seriously, not just for your success, but for what your success teaches. Because legacy doesn't begin with inheritance. It begins with discipline. It begins the moment you decide that who you become is more important than what you have. And when that kind of decision is made, wealth is no longer a number, it's a ripple that goes on long after you're gone. I've met a lot of people over the years who said, Jim, I just don't have enough to start saving. I'll wait until I'm earning more. Then I'll begin. And I always smile because I've heard that song before. You see, if you can't save $1 out of 10, you won't save 100 out of 1,000. And if you won't save 100, you won't save 1,000. The amount isn't the issue, it's the habit. And the habit doesn't wait for income. It starts with intention. Let's get real practical. You don't need a financial windfall to begin your journey to wealth. You just need 1%. 1%. That means if you make $100, set aside 1, not 10, not 20, just 1. That's not going to change your lifestyle, but it will start to change your mindset. That's where the magic begins. You see, it's not the amount that matters at first. It's the message you send to yourself. It's you telling your subconscious, I'm becoming a person who saves. I'm becoming a person who takes responsibility for my financial future. And once you do that, once you develop the habit, the momentum takes over. When I was first learning these principles, I didn't have a lot of money. I was working hard just to stay afloat. But my mentor told me, start with a little, let your habits grow as your income grows. So I did. I started small. I set aside a few dollars here and there. I tracked it. I respected it. And over time, that small start began to grow. Because once you've tasted discipline, once you've proven to yourself that you can live below your means and plan for the future, well, it becomes easier to add another percent and then another. Eventually, that 1% becomes 5%, then 10%, then 20%. And by the time your income starts to increase, you've already built the system to support wealth. You've trained yourself to be a good manager. And let me tell you, money loves good management. It flees from chaos. It resists those who don't respect it. But it multiplies in the hands of someone who's prepared. You see, we often imagine that wealth comes all at once, a big business deal, a winning investment, a lucky break. But more often, it arrives quietly, one disciplined act at a time. One wise decision, 1%, compounded again and again. That's how fortunes are really built brick by brick, not all at once. Think of a jar. Every time you put $1 in, it's not just the money that matters, it's the mindset. You're training yourself to think long term. You're saying, I'm not just spending everything I have. I'm creating margin. I'm creating options. I'm building strength. And if you've never done this before, let me encourage you, don't wait till you feel ready. You'll never feel ready. Start now. Look at your income. Take 1% off the top and treat it like it doesn't exist. Move it. Save it. Hide it if you must, but keep it for your future self. That small act alone will begin to change how you see your money, how you handle decisions, and how you approach opportunities. I've watched young people who earned very little outpace older folks who earned much more simply because they respected that 1%. They didn't despise the small beginning. They honored it. And because they honored the beginning, the universe opened more doors for them. And let me add this. Starting small doesn't mean staying small. Once you've built the habit of saving 1%, you'll start to find ways to increase it. You'll cut unnecessary spending. You'll earn more. You'll get creative. And suddenly you're not just saving, you're investing. You're building. You're multiplying. That's the quiet secret of wealth. It starts small, but once you get it going, it becomes a force of nature. Don't wait for the perfect paycheck to start acting like a wealthy person. Start with what you have. Start with 1%. Because once you master that one, you've proven you can master them all. One of the most subtle traps on the road to wealth is not poverty, it's comfort disguised as progress. It's when you start earning a little more, and instead of growing your surplus, you grow your expenses. And before long, you're back in the same financial struggle, only now with a nicer car and a bigger television. I've watched it happen time and time again. A young man gets a raise, what does he do? He upgrades his lifestyle. Moves into a bigger place, signs up for 3 streaming services, starts eating out 4 nights a week. He says, well, I'm earning more. I deserve a little reward. And yes, I believe in rewards. But rewards come after results, not instead of them. The wealthy understand this. When my income first began to rise, I'll tell you, I was tempted. I wanted to show people I'd made it. I thought, maybe I'll get the new car, move into the flashy apartment, pick up the fancy suits. But a wise mentor reminded me, money is a seed, not a fruit. And if you eat the seed, you destroy the orchard. Now let's talk practically. Say you go from making $3,000 a month to $4,000. What do most people do? They increase their expenses by $1,000, but what could you do instead? You could lock in your current lifestyle and invest the entire difference, or save it, or put it toward building a side business, or paying off debt. That extra $1,000 could change your life, or disappear into the wind. The real test of maturity is what you do with surplus. Anybody can survive on necessity, but it takes wisdom to manage abundance. And wealth only comes to those who can be trusted with more than they need. When you say no to lifestyle inflation, you're saying yes to options. You're saying yes to freedom. You're saying, I don't need to impress anyone. I'm building something bigger than appearances. And that's what separates the rich from the wealthy. The rich have money. The wealthy have control. The rich spend, the wealthy invest. I remember a couple who came to one of my seminars. They had doubled their income in 2 years, but their savings account hadn't moved an inch. They were always stressed, always busy, and couldn't figure out why more money didn't bring more peace. I told them gently, it's because every time your income rose, your expenses chased it. You didn't grow your foundation. You just repainted the walls. You've got to break that pattern. Because if you don't learn to manage lifestyle inflation when you're making $50,000, you won't manage it at $500,000 either. The amount doesn't fix the behavior. The discipline does. So how do you do it? Start with one question. What do I value more, status or freedom? Then ask another. Will this purchase move me closer to financial independence or further away from it? Every time your income increases, consider it a gift, and gifts require stewardship. Divide it into categories before it disappears. Increase your savings rate. Add to your investments. Upgrade your knowledge. Build a stronger foundation. When I began to apply this principle, my lifestyle didn't change overnight, but my options did. Within a few years, I could choose the work I wanted. I had time to read, to travel, to give, to teach. Not because I earned more, though I did, but because I had learned to keep more. I'd learned to master the urge to upgrade everything the moment the bank account looked healthier. Discipline in the face of abundance is one of the greatest signs of wisdom. Saying no to something today because you're saying yes to something better tomorrow, that's the mindset of the wealthy. So the next time you get that raise, that bonus, that windfall, don't rush to inflate your lifestyle. Inflate your discipline. Inflate your vision. Because true wealth isn't measured by how much you make. It's measured by how much you keep and how wisely you grow it. Remember, every dollar not consumed is a soldier for your freedom. Put them to work. Let your surplus build your future, not just decorate your present. One of the great secrets of wealth that I learned early on was that your mind is the real bank account. And if you feed it right, it begins to pay dividends far beyond anything the stock market could deliver. You see, the wealthy don't read for amusement, they read for advancement. They read with a purpose to grow, to think sharper, to make better decisions, and to multiply the value they bring to the marketplace. When I was just getting started, I wasn't making much money. I didn't have degrees or a fancy resume, but what I did have was curiosity. And I had a mentor who told me, your income will never exceed your personal development. At first, I didn't fully grasp what that meant. But when I picked up my first serious book, something shifted. The author became a teacher, the page became a mirror, and the ideas became a roadmap. I didn't just learn facts. I learned ways of thinking, and that changed everything. If you want to change your life, change the input. Every new book you read is a seed planted in the soil of your mind, and when watered with action, those seeds produce harvests of opportunity. I've often said, miss a meal, but don't miss a book. Why? Because books feed your future. Books sharpen your decision-making. Books help you avoid costly mistakes. One idea can save you 10 years of wandering. One chapter can redirect the next decade of your life. You want to make more money? Then start with this question. What problem can I solve better than anyone else? And here's the catch. Solving big problems requires deep understanding. You need to know things that others don't. You need an edge. That edge doesn't always come from working harder. It comes from learning smarter. That's where skill stacking comes in. The wealthy aren't just good at one thing. They build a combination of skills that make them uniquely valuable. Maybe you're good at writing now, add marketing to that. Maybe you know numbers now, add leadership. Maybe you've mastered your product now, study persuasion. Each new skill you acquire doesn't just add, it multiplies. And books, mentors, and focused study are the cheapest, fastest way to acquire those skills. I remember reading a book on negotiation one year, just a simple, practical guide. And in one contract meeting a few months later, I used one idea from that book to save thousands of dollars. Just one sentence, one reframe changed the outcome. I thought, now that was a profitable paragraph. That's how powerful it is. You're not just reading, you're mining for gold. Some pages have more gold than others, but if you mine long enough, you'll strike something that pays for everything. And don't say you don't have time. Everyone has 15 minutes a day. Read 15 minutes a day and you'll finish about 15, 20 books a year. That's a university-level education every year, self-directed and targeted exactly where you need it. Turn off the noise, turn on your mind. That's how the wealthy think. That's how they grow. And remember, it's not about how fast you read. It's about how deeply you apply. Highlight. Take notes. Reread. Teach what you learn. The moment you teach it, it becomes part of you. Reading is only step one. Reflection is step two. Application is the bridge. And results are the reward. So build your own curriculum. No one is coming to hand you a syllabus. If you want to master your finances, study wealth. If you want to improve your relationships, read about influence and communication. If you want to be a great leader, study those who led well and those who didn't. Learn from both. Every book is a mentor in your pocket. And you can carry dozens with you wherever you go. No excuses left, just choices. The real difference between those who get ahead and those who stay behind. One group keeps feeding their distractions. The other group feeds their mind. Choose wisely, because in the end, Your library is more valuable than your wardrobe, and your bookshelf will feed you long after the dinner table is cleared. You know, a lot of people are out there waiting for the perfect moment to get their financial life in order. They're waiting to make the big leap, land the dream job, launch the perfect business plan, or finally have enough to start saving and investing. But here's the truth. Perfection is a trap, and it has kept more people poor than any downturn, tax policy, or market crash. Wealth doesn't respond to perfect timing. It responds to disciplined consistency. It grows in the soil of regular effort, not flawless execution. I've seen folks with big ideas, tremendous passion, even talent, but they show up once in a while. They start strong, then disappear for weeks, months, or even years. They treat their goals like fireworks, instead of furnaces' loud flashes that burn out quickly, instead of a steady flame that keeps burning. I used to think success required huge effort in short bursts. But the truth is, it's small, repeated action that wins the long race. And money respects that principle deeply. Let me give you an example. Suppose someone saves $10 a week. You might say, "What's $10? That's nothing." But it's not nothing, it's a statement. It's a habit. It's the beginning of a new identity. Someone else might wait for the day they can put away $500. And maybe that day comes, maybe it doesn't. Meanwhile, the person who started small has built not just a savings account, but a character, a rhythm, a routine. And that rhythm, that's what wealth dances to. Consistency builds momentum, and momentum attracts results. When I started out, I didn't have much, but I set aside a little from every check. Not because it would make me rich overnight, but because it taught me who I was, becoming someone who honored his future. And when you do something daily or weekly, even on a small scale, it gets easier. It becomes who you are. That's the real secret. Wealth doesn't come to who you wish you were. It comes to who you are every day, in action. Now, don't get me wrong, I believe in excellence. But excellence isn't perfection. Excellence is showing up when it's hard. Excellence is doing the work when it's boring. Excellence is sticking to the plan even when you're tired, uninspired, or feel like giving up. The marketplace rewards value, and value is built through time, repetition, and steady contribution. Think about compound interest. It doesn't care how you feel. It doesn't need excitement. It only needs consistency. Miss a few deposits, and the long-term result changes. Keep them going even. In small amounts, and the math starts working in your favor. Life works the same way. You don't need to be the smartest, fastest, or luckiest. But if you're the one who shows up every day, learns a little more, saves a little more, and gets a little better, you'll outpace the one who waits for perfect conditions every time. I remember meeting a gentleman who had built a 7-figure portfolio by investing modestly every month for 25 years. No windfalls, no jackpots, just commitment. He said, "I never timed the market. I just made time for the market." That's consistency. And here's another thing. Consistency creates trust. People trust those who are reliable. Clients, partners, investors, even your own family, they want to know they can count on you. And if you can be counted on, you'll never run out of opportunities. So the question is not, can you be perfect? The real question is, can you be faithful to your future, even when no one is watching? Can you write down your financial goals and review them weekly, even if they haven't changed? Can you invest a small amount every month, no matter what? Can you resist the urge to quit just because progress feels slow? Because in the end, it's not your perfection that builds your wealth, it's your persistence. It's the steady hand, the quiet discipline, the daily deposits that build empires. Consistency isn't glamorous, but it's golden. Let your actions compound. Let your habits carry the weight of your dreams. Wealth is built by those who walk, not those who wait. If you want to build wealth that lasts, if you want to rise above the financial chaos that takes most people under, then you've got to learn this. Emotional discipline is not optional. It's essential. And I'm not talking about never feeling emotion. We all feel it. I'm talking about learning to master it before it masters you. Because the greatest financial mistakes people make are rarely about math. They're about mood. And I've seen it too many times, a perfectly sound plan ruined by a moment of fear, a great investment sold off in panic, a business abandoned in frustration, or a windfall wasted in excitement. All because emotion took the wheel. You see, your emotions will scream at you in moments of uncertainty. They'll say, get out when markets dip. They'll say, buy big when the crowd is excited. They'll say, spend it all when you feel on top of the world. But wisdom doesn't shout, it whispers. And if you haven't trained yourself to pause and listen, you'll follow the noise right into a financial ditch. Wealthy people build their systems on principles, not passion. They use emotion as a signal, not a strategy. Early in my career, I made the mistake of investing emotionally. I got caught up in what everyone else was doing. There was a new trend, some hot opportunity. Everyone said it was the next big thing. And I jumped in. I didn't study it, didn't weigh the risk. I let excitement run the show. Well, let me tell you something. Excitement makes poor investments. I lost money, not because the market tricked me, but because I tricked myself. I was chasing emotion, not execution. But I learned. I learned that before I make a financial decision, I stop, I ask questions, I examine my motives. Am I doing this because it's smart or because I'm scared? Am I buying because the fundamentals are right or because everyone else is doing it? Am I saving because I have a plan or hoarding out of fear? That kind of inner dialogue is what emotional maturity looks like. And it's the foundation for preserving and multiplying wealth. Now, let me make this clear. You will feel fear. You will feel doubt. You will feel the urge to do something rash when markets fall or when your business hits a rough patch. That's natural. But you must train yourself to pause before you respond. Just like a skilled boxer doesn't swing at every feint, you don't act on every emotional twitch. You let the storm pass and then you move. Calm minds build strong portfolios. Still hearts make wise moves. You also have to be careful with overconfidence. That's just as dangerous. Some folks have a little success, and suddenly they think every move they make turns to gold. They get greedy, reckless, thinking the rules don't apply to them. But the laws of discipline never change. I always say, be humble in the harvest, because nothing destroys a fortune faster than pride in disguise as courage. So here's what I started doing. I wrote down rules for myself, personal rules for money, like never invest more than I'm willing to lose, or sleep on big decisions, or no financial moves under emotional pressure. I let those rules become my anchors. Because when emotion floods the system, you need anchors to hold you in place. The storm doesn't last, but the damage does if you act without control. I also surrounded myself with people who were steady. A financial mentor, a business partner, someone who would challenge me when I got caught up in emotion. Don't go it alone. Find voices of reason to keep you grounded. That's another layer of discipline, choosing counsel over impulse. At the end of the day, emotional discipline is the thermostat for your financial future. When it runs hot or cold without control, your wealth pays the price. But when you master the internal climate, you become immune to the chaos outside. You stop being reactive and start being strategic. And that's where true wealth begins, not in the stock price, not in the paycheck, but in the person who can look at a moment of fear or temptation and say, not today. I've got principles that lead me, not feelings. Because your feelings might follow fortune, but your fortune will always follow discipline. When it comes to building wealth, one of the greatest myths people believe is that success comes from doing something spectacular once. The big sale, the winning stock, the breakthrough idea. But the truth? Wealth isn't built in single moments. It's built in repeated motions. The wealthy know something most people ignore. It's not about complexity. It's about consistency. Repetition of the right behaviors over time creates the foundation of financial success. I learned early on that if I wanted to become successful, I didn't need to reinvent the wheel. I just needed to learn how the wheel works and then turn it every single day. That's the part most people miss. They get bored with the basics. They want excitement, innovation, something new every morning. But success is usually quiet. It's found in the discipline of doing the right thing, not once in a while, but again and again until it becomes second nature. Let me give you an example. One of the first habits I formed was tracking my expenses. It wasn't flashy. It wasn't thrilling. In fact, it was a little tedious at first. But I forced myself to write down where every dollar went. Not because I was obsessed with pennies, but because I wanted to become the kind of person who respected money. And repetition taught me something important. When you write it down every day, you start noticing patterns. And when you notice patterns, you get power. You can fix what you can see. You can't fix what you ignore. Wealthy people don't just know about saving or investing, they do it consistently. They repeat. They put a portion of their income aside every month without negotiation. They study their numbers. They review their progress. They read books on finance again and again, not because they forgot, but because repetition deepens understanding. You don't become strong by lifting weights once. You get strong by doing the reps. Same goes for wealth. You've got to do the reps. You save when you don't feel like it. You study your investments when you'd rather be entertained. You stick to your spending plan, even when temptations arise. Every repetition makes you stronger. And let me tell you something else. Repetition builds belief. When you repeat disciplines, you start seeing results. Slowly, maybe subtly at first, but it happens. And when the results show up, confidence grows. And that confidence, that's the fuel to keep going. When I saw my savings account grow not by leaps, but by steady inches, I realized something powerful. This works. And because it worked, I kept going. That's the flywheel effect of discipline. You push, and eventually it starts to spin on its own. I used to teach this principle to my students all the time. I'd say, don't aim to read 100 books. Aim to master 5 and read them 100 times. Because every time you go back to a great principle, you see something new. You catch what you missed. You apply what you ignored. You grow deeper, not just wider. The wealthy don't chase information. They build understanding. And understanding comes from repetition. So the question is, what are you repeating? Are you repeating excellence or excuses? Are you repeating habits that build wealth or habits that drain it? Are you practicing awareness or avoidance? Because repetition doesn't care what you practice, it just multiplies it, good or bad. I suggest you build a rhythm around the wealth principle. Save weekly. Review your numbers weekly. Read something that sharpens your thinking every day. Reflect on your goals monthly. Train your mind and your money the same way you train your body through structured repetition. And here's the beauty of it. Over time, the things that felt difficult become automatic. That's how identity is built. When you do the right thing long enough, it becomes who you are. You're no longer someone trying to manage money, you're someone who does. Not because of luck, not because of intelligence, but because of discipline and repetition. So don't be afraid of the boring routines. Embrace them. That's where mastery is found. Because in the end, wealth doesn't come from what you do occasionally, it comes from what you do consistently. Repetition builds wealth like water-shaped stone, slow, steady, and unstoppable. As we come to the close of this conversation, I want you to take a moment and reflect on what truly builds wealth. It's not about luck or sudden windfalls. It's about the steady, repeated actions you take day after day. The principles I've shared with you, saving consistently, investing wisely, tracking your progress, and nurturing your mindset. These aren't complicated, but they demand discipline. And discipline is not a one-time event. It's a lifestyle. Remember, wealth isn't something you stumble upon. It's something you create. It is the result of countless small decisions repeated over time that shape your future. The person you become is the sum of your daily habits. So ask yourself, are your habits moving you towards your goals or away from them? If you want to change your financial destiny, you must be willing to change what you do consistently. Start now. Don't wait for the perfect moment, because it may never come. Begin with one small action. Track your expenses today. Read a page of a financial book tonight. Set aside a fixed amount for savings this week. Build your foundation with these small, repeated steps. Over time, they will compound into something far greater than you can imagine. And don't keep this journey to yourself. Share your intentions with someone who will hold you accountable. Speak your goals aloud, write them down, and revisit them often. Clarity and commitment will keep you moving forward when distractions come knocking. You have everything you need to start right now. Take the knowledge you've gained and turn it into action. Wealth is not a mystery, it's a habit. Let repetition be your ally and discipline your bridge to the life you desire. The time to act is today. Your future self will thank you.